Yes, ma'am. So thank you so much for the generous words about my work. And for me, as asked by you, I will try to speak on research ethics, plagiarism, and because this seminar is going to be on the intellectual property rights, current trends in the research and creative works. So I would try to relate this plagiarism and research ethics with the copyright issues also. And I first of all thank to the organizers, SETH, NAVRANG, LOHIA, JAIRAM Girls College, Kurukshetra, for inviting me, and to I will be sharing my thoughts on this issue of plagiarism, copyright, and research ethics, which is I think one of the very important issue for all the researchers. Researchers being students, researchers being the faculty members, so all for this is very important because if we talk about any academic activity, then research is an essential component. Because research is primarily a self-driven and self-satisfying human enterprise, which has very social extensions also. And the purpose of research is just to add to the human knowledge we all know, and just to create some new knowledge, to find out the truth, and to seek as to what something new has to come out from that particular research. But the technological developments, we all know, have a great impact on the academic world in numerous ways. The accessibility to information has become very easy. But whether that information which is available on various academic and non-academic platforms is correct or not, it's a question which can open a Pandora box also. And the information may be inaccurate, it may be erroneous, it may be incorrect. So it is important that whatever we are searching, whatever we are having the information from different platforms through online mode, it is very essential that the information which is being disseminated, it should not only be accurate, but it should be properly researched also. So the burden is on all the researchers, the faculty members who are publishing their work, who are disseminating their research reports, that whatever research they have done, that must be thoroughly researched. There should be accurate data, that should not be falsified, there should not be falsified data, it should not be fabricated data, but it should be accurate data, which we are going to publish, which we are going to disseminate for the others. It may be through online mode, it may be through the publications, publication may be online, publication may be in the physical type of the work. So the point here is that the report and the publication must be very, very accurate, and it must be properly researched. Because if it is not properly and thoroughly researched paper, it will give incorrect information, which may lead to ethical issues and research misconduct. Because ethical principles refer to honesty. It is referring to the trustworthiness of the records and the dissemination of the research output. So research misconduct is where the information in research work is, as I told you, fabricated. There is some falsification in the report, or at the same time, the researcher has used the means of dishonesty, or it is not based on the academic integrity, but the researcher has used some plagiarism also. So plagiarism, which simply means the practice of taking someone else's work or someone other's idea and then rewrite that idea or passing them as the researcher's own idea. That means the work of the other is in the way of the passing of the researcher. The new researcher is using that work of the earlier author without acknowledging the earlier author. So this is something which comes in the category of plagiarism, and this is a harm that is grounded in ethics. Plagiarism is the act of using, as I told you, another's works or idea without giving the proper credit to the author, rather falsely representing that this is his own work. So this may be text plagiarism, this may be the idea plagiarism. If we talk about the text plagiarism, it is just cut and paste plagiarism, Control C and Control V. Every researcher must be aware now, because we are now in the technological era. And everybody must have all these gadgets and the electronic gadgets, where from we take the information, we just copy, we just cut, we just paste that and use that material as our own material. So this is something known as the text plagiarism. There is idea plagiarism also. Idea plagiarism, that simply means the idea is used while paraphrasing the text. Paraphrasing that the idea is someone others, the text is of someone others, but we are not pasting those idea as it is, but we are paraphrasing, we are making some difference or using some different words, some substitute words for that, synonymous words for that, and then we are using that idea. But if we are doing that paraphrasing also, then again it would be plagiarism. So this idea plagiarism is also found very easily because of this electronic and some informative provisions which we find because of this online study and online material which is available everywhere. Then there is another type of the plagiarism which is known as the self-plagiarism. Now, one can think that how one can plagiarize his or her own work, but that is true. Self-plagiarism, that is the text similarity by the same author. When some of the authors, they work on the same problem in a series of papers, because there is one idea, and from that there is publication, slicing of that idea. From one work, they may take into another work, or they may bifurcate that work with other publications also. So slicing of that work, that would also cause the self-plagiarism. So the author who is working on the same problem in number of papers, so it happens that text which is written in the earlier paper, that remains in the mind of the author. And in such a situation, there is every possibility of repetitiveness in the later work which is done by the same author. So in our country, we see that strict measures have been taken to ensure that researchers are ethical. They are ethical in their research publications. Their publications are free from plagiarism. So as to promote the high quality of research. Basic purpose is just to promote the high quality and just to create the new knowledge by the faculty members, by the researchers. And for this, the UGC, University Grants Commission, has established a consortium, also the Consortium for the Academic Research and Ethics, known as the CARE. Every researcher, every faculty member must be aware of that CARE list journals. So that Consortium of Academic Research and Ethics, that is recommending the good journals for that CARE list, and which the publication is to be made. Then again, you see, to improve the quality of research in the Indian universities and to promote the academic and research integrity and the publication ethics also. The UGC has issued one of the notification in July 2018, that is a regulation on the academic integrity. So we find that when we talk about the plagiarism, then this copyright issues are also involved in that plagiarism. But sometimes there are confusions regarding the term copyrights, infringement, and plagiarism. They are often used interchangeably, which is incorrect. They are different. Copyright is dealt under the Copyright Act of 1957, which is amended in 2012. And this plagiarism, earlier there was no law to have this any penalty, punishment, or any action if the work is found to be plagiarized. But since 2018 July, the UGC has come out with the regulation, and by that regulation, there are certain levels. I'll be discussing those levels. So if there is a work which is found to be plagiarized, then penalty is also to be imposed under that regulation. But otherwise, copyright and plagiarism, these two are different, because copyright infringement is a violation of the exclusive rights of the copyright holder. And this Copyright Act 1957, as amended in 2012, that deals with fair dealing and fair use under Section 52. This fair use doctrine that permits the use of copyrighted material without the prior consent of the copyright owner. But that has to be very, very limited. This doctrine of the fair use is used for the academic activities and that are for the benefit of the society. One can access good quality of academic resources by using the fair use doctrine. If you see Section 52, Clause 1H of the Copyright Act, then you find that it makes it permissible that a teacher or student, researcher, student, scholar to reproduce any copyrighted work. That may be included in a question, that may be the answer to a question in the examination, or for the academic instructional purposes, as I'm giving this lecture, so that for that purpose also, because I'm just going to disseminate the knowledge. So the work of the others I can use, and there is no infringement of the copyright because it is permissible under Section 52 as a fair use or the fair deal doctrine. Similarly, 52(1)G of the Copyright Act also says that if a copyrighted work is published with bona fide intention, in good faith, for the educational purposes, then again it would not be considered to be a copyright infringement. And further, one more section, 52(1)I of the Copyright Act, that provides for the private and personal use, including the research work, as the reasons under which the uses of a copyright work may not amount to the infringement. And in 2012, it has been amended, as I told you, 52 Clause 1N, and that permits the keeping digital records of the textbooks and other academic materials for preservation purposes, which we all know that how in this pandemic period, the educational institutions have shifted to online mode of teaching and learning. And the other activities like this webinar in which we all are here, so many FDPs, refresher course, and other training programs that all have been organized through online mode. So the copyrighted material, which is digitalized, that is also distributed by the teachers to their students, to their scholars, through Google Classroom, through Moodles, through emails, through WhatsApp groups. So this is all being done because of this pandemic particularly. And we are also of the opinion, and there is a general view that this new normal would continue in future also. And this 52(1)N, that speaks about the keeping of the digitalized records of the textbooks and other academic materials. Now, one of the important point is that the important material which is being distributed by the teachers, which is being taken by the teachers for the teaching purposes, for the research purposes, for the educational purposes, to complete the syllabus and so on. So how this particular section is going to be interpreted in this online education system, it is yet to be seen, because presently we don't have any case law that whether this would be a copyright infringement or not. That is distribution of the digitalized records and textbooks, etc., which can be used for the person, researcher or faculty member for himself or herself, because in online mode, as I told you, they are also distributed and passing to the students for the academic and educational purposes. So whether there would be an infringement of the copyright or not, that has to be seen, because we find that sometimes plagiarisms also give rise to the level of the copyright infringement. For example, if we talk about the unauthorized copying, maybe copyright infringement if it doesn't fall within the exception under Section 52 of the Copyright Act. So using the ideas another author without properly crediting the source of the data, that is not the copyright infringement, because copyright protects the expression. It doesn't protect the ideas. While in plagiarism, if there is paraphrasing, then it amounts to the plagiarism, and that is punishable under the regulations of the UGC. So the main difference is that the expression and that of the idea. Otherwise, when we talk about the research ethics and academic integrity, then it is a violation of the research ethics as well as the academic integrity, plagiarism and the copyright both. When we talk of the academic integrity, there comes the issues like is there any cheating? Is there any plagiarism? Whether the researcher is involved in some dishonesty, is doing some fraud, or some other types of the academic malpractices are present in the work or not. So if yes, then how to prevent these behaviors in a better way? This is a question for all of us to think about. So a researcher need to promote the positive values, which are said to be essential components for the ethical academic practice also. And academic integrity, that is a commitment to these fundamental values like honesty is to be there, trust is to be there, fairness in the work is to be there. The researcher should respect also the others' work, responsibility of the researcher. So many of the components are there through which the academic integrity can be held, and these fundamental values can enhance the academic integrity and research or ethical values. So first, the research ethics, if we talk about, we think that the researcher must be very, very honest. He should strive for the honesty in all the scientific communications, honesty in reporting the data, honesty in providing the results of his research work, or the methods and the procedures which have been used by the researcher. He should give a clear report of all that thing and the publication status, that is all. The researcher must do all these things with full honesty. Then the data must not be fabricated by the researcher. The data should not be falsified by the researcher, or I should say that there should not be any misrepresentation of the data by the researcher. So in that way, the researcher has to put the entire honesty. He should work honestly while giving the or presenting the data for the others. And also the researcher should not deceive the colleagues, the research sponsors, or the public by giving the false data. So honesty is the first policy. Honesty is the first research ethics. Honesty is to be there if we want to see that there is academic integrity in the report which the researcher is going to publish. Then trust is also very important. Trust that also includes some confidentiality, that if it is an empirical work, if the work in which the others' thoughts and views are to be taken, if the others' opinions are to be obtained, then it is important to protect the confidential communications, such as the papers or grants which are being submitted for publication, the personal records of the respondents, the subjects, etc. And the names of the respondents need not be disclosed because the privacy issue is also very important. So confidentiality has to be maintained. If the research, empirical research, is related to the matter like LGBT groups, like HIV/AIDS persons, then the health issues or the names of those persons, those should be kept in anonymity, because if you will create the trust, only then the others will respond you. So the confidentiality, anonymity, privacy, these are some of the values which the researcher must follow. And to see that if there is any mistrust, if there is a thing which is against the privacy rights of the persons, then the results would not be proper, and this would be against the fundamental value of research ethics and academic integrity. Then fairness is also one of the important value. fairness, that is also including the openness. For example, if the researcher is sharing some data, results, or the ideas, etc., then he or she, the researcher, must be very, very open for criticism. He must be open to have the new ideas. If somebody is saying something, if somebody is providing some new angle to the work which the researcher has done, then the researcher should accept that fairly. The researcher should be very, very open to accept all those criticism so as to include in his work. And at the same time, the researcher must also honor the patents, copyrights, and other forms of the intellectual property. And he should not use the unpublished data or methods or the results without the permission of the original author. And if he is or she is using, then the proper acknowledgement or the credit for all the contributors to that research must be given. And the researcher should never plagiarize all these things which are there in existence. So this fairness and openness is another ethical value which the researcher must follow. Then respect is also very important, ethics. Which says that if your study material is the human subjects, then they need to be protected. When conducting the research on the human subjects, then the harm must be minimized. The benefit should be maximized, but the harms and the risks, that must be very, very minimized. And they should be respect their dignity, their autonomy, and particularly if the work is going to be done on a person who is no more, who is a dead person, and the research is going to be on that person posthumously, then again it has to be seen that the data and accuracy is very important, because nobody is going to say that whatever is written is correct or not. So the researcher has to be very, very careful if the subject of research is the human being, and proper respect has to be shown, and the researcher has to strive to distribute the benefits and burdens of all that research very fairly. And he should inform the advantages and disadvantages of that research to the subject, that is the person on whom the research is going to be conducted. Then responsibility is important. A responsibility, that means that responsible mentoring, and that means that the researcher may include the research scholar, that may include the research guide or the supervisor or the mentor. So they must all educate and supervise and guide properly to the students. They must mentor the students. This is the responsibility of the supervisor and the guide also. They should promote the welfare of the student. They should promote the and allow them to make their own decisions at the same time. So responsibility in the matter of responsible mentoring, and responsibility in the matter of the social responsibility also, because this is one of very important factor, because in every research, whether it is a research in the science, whether it's a research in the humanities or otherwise, it's going to affect the society at large. So all the researchers should have some social responsibility also. They should strive to promote the social good and to prevent and to mitigate the social harms through their research work, through their research publications, etc. And these are some of the values which are very important for all the academic communities, that has to be translated their ideals into action through the social responsibility. So every researcher, whether it is the research guide or the researcher, they should take care of that, and they should follow this important ethical value, that is responsibility in mentoring, responsibility towards the society. Then we think about academic dishonesty, because if we are not following these ethical principles of the academic integrity or if the fundamental values which are important for the researcher, then it would lead to academic dishonesty. Dishonesty, that is cheating, dishonesty that is said to be stealing others' thoughts, others' ideas, others' work. So academic dishonesty, that is simply termed as the plagiarism, and academic dishonesty is an issue of concern worldwide. It's not something that we are discussing this academic dishonesty in India only. It is a worldwide issue. It is a worldwide concern. Everywhere we can find that academic dishonesty is there. It has become something like that. It is just crippling the talent. It is crippling the potential of these students who are the future leaders, because we see that this practice, though it is not new, but new technologies have made it easier to cheat. With the advent of the web, it has become simpler for the students. It has become very easy for the researchers, for the academicians, just to inflict themselves in this dishonest and immoral practices, because when everything is coming without any restriction on your screen, and you need to work on that. So the very first point that that stays with the researcher is that he or she will take that particular material and would use in his or her own research work. So because of this advent of the web, this has become very easy. This has become very simple. This has become a very, very easy going thing for the students, for the researchers, and for the academicians as a whole. And there are certain points that even though the students or the researchers, the scholars, they can do good work, but otherwise they are involved in these immoral and dishonest practices. So the question is there, or one of the moot point which we must consider about: why do the researchers plagiarize? What is the reason behind? What's the idea that without doing their own work, they are just copying and pasting, cutting and pasting from others' works to make it their own work? So what are the special reasons for that? So to me, it seems that maybe there is some study pressure on the researchers, that because they don't have sufficient time, or they are not making or schedule for their time, that within this time they have to work, and at the last time they come across that they have to submit their work, and for that they decide that now the time is very less, and they are just copying, pasting and submitting for their forward degree. So study pressure may be one of the reason. Then students may have the poor study habits also. They are not busy. They are busy in some other work, and they are not busy in the studies or for doing that particular research in which they have taken admission, or what the work they have to do. And one important factor is that in India, one more and very specific reason through which we find that the researchers are involved in the plagiarism, that is English. English as an international language in many non-English speaking countries. So you see that when the students, they take admission in the PhDs, for PhD programs, then the research supervisor, they say that you do your work, and they have to start their work in English, though their language may not be English. They are not very well aware about the language, or they are not well versed in the language, but still they have to complete their work in English, the PhD thesis in English. And for that, in order to avoid any incorrectness, erroneous things, they just take the help of the information which is available on the websites, various websites. And that's how you see, that is also one of the reason that the students who are not well versed in the English language, they just copy and paste from the material which is available on different websites, and they use that, and they follow in that, they inflict themselves in plagiarism. So English is also one of the reason I think that these students, they do plagiarize for that. Then there may be some careless attitude on the of the researcher. They may have some there is some lack of the strict academic discipline, or supervisor is not supervising properly, or they won't have some time. or maybe that the researcher may not have some proper skills of referencing, that he or she is not aware about how to give the references and citations of those things which he or she is borrowing from the other's work. So there are different reasons that the researchers plagiarize. But academic dishonesty for achievement goal, that is also important. And the problem of this academic dishonesty, which includes plagiarism, is widespread among the students around the world. As I told you, it's not confined to India. It's not a concern only in India, but in the entire world. So the majority of students, they are involved in at least one form of the academic dishonesty, which is leading to this epidemic of cheating. And there seems to be a quality deficit in education system. Researchers, they are moving towards the plagiarism to perpetuity. There is a rapid spread of this deadly termite, we call this plagiarism, because it is just making the entire system dishonest. Academically, this is eating the quality of our academicians also. So to maintain performance, to achieve the goals without hard work, there is every likelihood of cheating, which we see in today's academicians and researchers. So many reasons are there through which we find that the researchers, they are involved in the academic dishonesty. Though ethical principles are there, but still they are not acknowledging the work of the other authors, and they are using as their own work. So in order to see this particular academic dishonesty and to bring the academic honesty, integrity in the system, in the academics, in the educational system, the UGC has come out with the regulations, and it has asked all these state and central universities to use the anti-plagiarism software. And that is to check the duplication of the PhD theses. And it is also very mandatory for all the universities to use the anti-plagiarism software before the award of the PhD's degrees to the scholars. And UGC has recommended the Orupund software also. So being in the system of the university education, everybody must be aware about this. And there are other softwares also which can check the similarity, like Turnitin is there, Authenticate is there, Plaque Checker is there, plaquetracker.com is there, plagiarism.org is there, many more software are there which are available, on which the scholars, the researchers, the faculty members, they can check their work, that how much plagiarism, how much work is duplicate, or how much work is similar with that of the others' work. And the UGC, as I told you, in 2018 has come out with this promotion of academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism in higher educational institutions. That is the regulations which are applicable on all the universities. And the main objective of these regulations were just to create the awareness about the responsible conduct of research. Research that includes the thesis, that includes dissertation. So the purpose or the objective is just to create the awareness for promoting the academic integrity and just to prevent the misconduct, which includes the plagiarism in academic writings in the students, faculty, researcher, and staff. So these university regulations on academic integrity, these are applicable on the students, faculty, researcher, and the staff in the educational system, in all the state universities, all the central universities, and of course the affiliated system also. So the first objective of these regulations is to create the awareness. The second objective of this regulation is to establish the institutional mechanism. that means that if there is something which comes in the definition of the plagiarism, then how to deal with that situation. So these regulations also prescribe for the establishing of the institutional mechanism through education and training to facilitate the responsible conduct of research, thesis, dissertation, all these things from and how to deter from the plagiarism, and then to develop a system to detect the plagiarism. So with these three objectives, this particular regulation have been passed in 2018. And as I told you that these regulations are applicable over the students, faculty, researcher, and the staff of the higher educational institutions in the country. And academic integrity is defined in this regulation as the intellectual honesty in proposing, in performing, and reporting any activity. As I just discussed, that the researcher has to be honest when publishing the research work, when placing the report, when publishing the report of the research work, when disseminating the idea of the research work, then this academic integrity is also defined in the regulation. Author includes the person who is doing that research, maybe faculty member, maybe staff member, maybe researcher, whatever he may be. And the faculty here also included regular faculty, ad hoc faculty, guest faculty, temporary faculty, visiting faculty. So when whosoever is teaching or doing the research work or is guiding to the students in the higher educational institution would come under the definition of the faculty. The researcher may be the teacher, academics, or the scientific researchers, whatever may be there. And the students, they are who are pursuing their program of study in the master's program, in the research programs, full-time, part-time, distance mode, they all would be researchers. And very importantly, when we talk about the plagiarism in this regulation, then it simply means the practice of taking someone else's work or idea and passing them as one's own idea. So this passing of trademark law, copyright law, that is all the part of this plagiarism now under this 2018 Act. And then if we talk about the duties of the higher educational institutions, then we see that one of the objective of the regulation is to establish a mechanism. So every higher educational institution has to establish two panels. One is at the department level, other at the institutional level. Departmental Academic and Integrity Panel, known as the DAIP, and at the institutional level, Institutional Academic Integrity Panel, IAIP. So these two panels are to be established to see that whether there is any act of plagiarism or not. And in this way, you see that these two panels, they have been given the duty and the function, the power to decide the allegation of plagiarism against the student faculty. They have the power to investigate into the matter of that particular report which has been made, that the student or the faculty researcher, they are involved in the plagiarism. And whatever report is being given by this departmental academic integrity to the institutional academic integrity, that is the higher body. Department level, that is at the department, and institution, that is at the university or at the college level. So these two panels, they have to work and they have to follow the principles of natural justice also. They have to initiate the investigation. They have to give the hearing to the persons also, that is to follow the principles of natural justice. Both these panels have to follow the natural justice principles also while investigating into the matter of the plagiarism or any complaint against the researcher. And then if the case is found out, then they can recommend the penalties also. So for that purpose, it is also very important that if the person, if the researcher is found to be guilty of plagiarism, then there are certain measures or penalties which these panels can recommend to the institutional head. that has to be inflicted on them. Then besides that, it is also very important that the students, the faculty, they must also be sensitized that there exist certain awareness rules or these academic integrity rules for plagiarism. And for that, the seminars, awareness programs, those are to be organized in every semester. And to the extent that the matter regarding the plagiarism and all these matters, that should also be the part of the syllabus that is in the UG and in the PG courses which are to be there. So you see, in order to promote this academic integrity and to prevent the plagiarism, this is one of the important duty of the academic institutions, higher educational institutions, that it should be covered in the coursework or in the module as a compulsory coursework in PG, in UG. The principles of academic integrity is to be included in the curricula of these programs in any of the academic institutions. Then this has also to be included in the refresher courses, orientation program, these conduct of the research, how it has to be responsible conduct of the research, how the publication ethics are to be followed by the faculty or staff members or the researchers. Then to train the students that how to use this plagiarism detection tools, reference management tools. These are all the duties of the higher educational institutions which are to be followed under these regulations to curb or to control the plagiarism, because we see that the higher educational institution can also declare and implement the technology-based mechanism using this appropriate software so as to ensure that the documents such as the thesis or dissertation or publication of any of the researcher or academic authority at the time of their publication, that they are free from any type of the plagiarism. So now you see that if the students, they are submitting their dissertation or the PhDs, then they have to give a certificate also that the work is the original work and it is free from the plagiarism. That is because of this 2018 regulations. The undertaking is also being given by the person who is submitting his research work. So these are all the policies, and at the same time all these things are to be posted on the website, homepage of the website of that particular higher educational institution, that these are the particular bodies, the rules and policies have been made by the authorities. Those rules and policies have been passed by the statutory bodies or authorities, and that has to be put on the website of the higher educational institution so that others may also be aware about that there exists a policy to stop the plagiarism, and the thesis or the dissertation work, those have to be submitted or those has to be posted on the website of the particular university, state university, central university's website, and at the same time that has also to be forwarded to the InfluVNet for its posting in the digital repository under Shodh Ganga or Shodh Ganga e-repository, all the dissertations of the PhDs, and these are to be forwarded by the higher educational authorities within a month after the award of the degrees. So there is also the format you see which have to be filled by the research scholars at the time of the submission of the thesis, that their work is to be made online within 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or time period is given therein in the format. So that has also just in order to enhance and to promote the academic integrity. Then the point here is that regarding the similarity or plagiarism, that what is similarity? What shall not come in the plagiarism, and what are the penalties for the plagiarism under this particular regulation? So in similarity checks or for plagiarism, we find that all the quoted work which is produced with all necessary permission or attribution shall be excluded. That would not come under the term plagiarism. All references, bibliographies, table of contents, preface and acknowledgement, that is also excluded from the plagiarism. all generic terms, laws, standard symbols, and standard equations, these are also excluded from this plagiarism. The research work carried out by the student, faculty, researcher, staff shall be based on the original ideas, which shall include the abstract, summary, hypothesis, observations, results, conclusion and suggestions, recommendations. So that shall not come in the category of the plagiarism. But if these abstract summaries are also having some similarity, then it has to be seen that up to 14 consecutive words should, beyond that, it should not be similar. So the regulation provides that the various things which would be excluded from the term plagiarism, that is the generic terms, laws, standard symbols, standard equations, bibliography, references, table of contents. That is the things which the researcher or the publisher or the author used in the books or the PhD or dissertation. So that is excluded. But the abstract, hypothesis, summary, observation, recommendations, these would not come under the similarity, and that shall not have any similarity, meaning thereby there should not be any similarity in the work of the researcher, which is containing in abstract, that should be his own; summary, that should be his own, there should not be any similarity; hypothesis, there should not be any similarity; observations, no similarity. But observation can be used up to 14 consecutive words only within inverted commas. Then if the work is found to be plagiarized, then the regulation provides for 4 levels of plagiarism. So the first level, that is called level 0. Level 0, that is similarity up to 10%. That is known as the minor similarity, and there is no penalty. Then level 2, then number 2, it is called the level 1. So level 1, that is similarity above 10% to 40%. And level at the third stage, level 2 comes, and similarity is above 40 to 60%. And the fourth level, that is level 3, that similarity is above 60%. So the penalties for the students of masters and research programs and the researchers and faculty staff, those are different. Penalties in case of the plagiarism, that has to be imposed for the academic misconduct if the same is established without doubt. And penalties for the plagiarism in the thesis and dissertation for the students, that is in level 0, no penalties to be there because it is 10% and it is considered to be the minor similarity. But in 10 to 40% similarity, that is level 1, then a student is asked to submit a revised script within a stipulated time period. That is not to be exceeded 6 months. That is within 6 months, the student has to resubmit the work. Then level 2, that is similarity between 40 to 60%. Then the student shall be debarred from submitting a revised script for a period of 1 year. And level 3, that is similarity up to above 60%. Then the student's registration for that program will be cancelled. And if there is a repeated plagiarism, then the penalty to such students would be given on 1 stage higher or 1 level higher. And the penalty in case of the degree or the credit that has been awarded or obtained to the student, then plagiarism is proved afterwards or a date which is later date, then the date of the award of the degree or the credit, as the case may be, then that shall be put in abeyance, and then it has to be given on the recommendation of the institutional academic integrity panel. So whenever they say, only then it would be given. Then penalty for the academic and research publications, again 4 levels are there. So for level 0, 10%, there is no penalty. That means that up to 10% one can go ahead with that. Level 1, then similarity between 10 to 40%. Then the researcher or the author would be asked to withdraw the manuscript. So whatever has been sent, that has to be withdrawn by the researcher. Then level 2, similarity between 40 to 60%. then the researcher would be asked to withdraw the manuscript, and he would be denied one annual increment. That is, the teacher or the faculty member who is submitting any paper for the publication, and if the similarity is found to be 40 to 60%, so not only the manuscript would be withdrawn, but one annual increment would also be denied by the employer at that time, and he shall not be allowed to be a supervisor for any new master's, MPhil or PhD scholars for a period of 2 years. This is very stringent or very rigid penalty which can be imposed in case of the similarity between 40 to 60%. And if the similarity is 60% and above, then not only the manuscript is to be withdrawn, but the researcher, the faculty would be denied 2 successive annual increments, and also 3 years ban for not taking any new MPhil PhD scholar for supervision. And if this plagiarism is repeated, then a higher degree level punishment is to be inflicted on the researcher or the author of that particular work. So we find that we see that the need, therefore, is to instill the ethics and discourage the academic dishonesty and plagiarism. That is very important. And it is suggested that to avoid the penalties for academic misconduct, the researcher should follow research ethics. Research ethics, as I told you, these are the ethics for the researcher, as just honesty, objectivity, integrity, carefulness, openness, competence, legality. So many research ethics are there which the researcher need to follow while doing the work, because without respecting for the intellectual property of the others, that can lead towards the academic dishonesty. That should be avoided, and the researcher must use these citations, and the researcher need to learn that how to use the citations, what are the citations, how to cite the sources, and when to cite the sources, what is the purpose of the bibliography, what is the purpose of references, what type of the endnotes and footnotes are to be there. So all these data which the researcher is using in his or her work, proper citation and references are very important to avoid plagiarizing another's work or ideas, and they should properly credit the source of the ideas or words used in their text with adequate references, citations appropriate regarding their discipline, because there are different types of the citation modes also. So the student researcher who is doing the work in the science field, in engineering field, in law field, in other humanities. So different types of the citation and references are there. So they can use adequate methods or appropriate methods which are necessary for their discipline. They should use the quotation marks with appropriate when quoting, it is directly quoting. So this is important, that the research ethics must be followed by all the researchers while doing their work, while disseminating their publication, while reporting any data, while making any publication regarding any research work. And if they follow all these ethics, then of course it would not come within the copyright infringement or under the plagiarism, as the UGC rules provides for penalty. They would be absolved from all these things if they follow research ethics. So research ethics is very, very important. And I would like to end with the quote of Albert Einstein when he says that many people say that it is the intellect which makes a great scientist. They are wrong. It is the character. So the character that includes the ethical values, the character that includes the academic integrity, the character that includes the academic dishonesty of the researcher, that is important, because intellect that may be earned, but character that has to be built. And for that, a researcher should follow all the research ethics and should not indulge in academic dishonesty. Only then we can have good results, we can have good researches also. We should not have the copy and pasted material without any new things, because as I started to say that research is to bring something new in the existing field. So the new may come only when we use our own ideas and not the ideas of others. So we should avoid the paraphrasing also. We should develop our own new ideas. That would also absolve the researcher from using academic dishonesty, and they would be prevented and indulging in any of the academic dishonesty. They would follow research ethics. So with these words, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to share my views on this very topic, research ethics, plagiarism, and the copyright issues. If there is any question, then I would be happy